Hello and welcome to Broke Hoe to Housewife. My name is Tiffany and I'm here to prove you can make a hoe a housewife and I can help. So today we are going to start with the most intimate meal that you can ask for, which to me is breakfast. If you're having breakfast with someone, it's either because they spent the night or because you have decided to share your time with them first thing in the morning. I'm not a morning person. I hate everybody till like 10. But if I'm going to have breakfast with you, that means I like you. So we're going to start today with pancakes. And so as we start to do pancakes, we're going to do them three ways. We're going to do basic pancakes from a box. So for those of you that have never cooked in your life, we are going to start with a box pancake, and we'll show you the basics of that. From there, we're going to go on to homemade pancakes. Box pancakes are cool. That's broke hoe shit. Homemade pancakes is where it's at. So we're going to do homemade pancakes two ways. Basic pancakes, then we're going to do fancy pancakes. So for the fancy pancakes, we're going to do a lemon pancake with a strawberry berry like topping. So before you start cooking in anything, the first thing that you always want to do is get your ingredients out. And so I have done that. I've gotten out everything that I'm going to use today. The reason that you want to do that is before you get started, you don't want to get halfway through a recipe and find out I don't have eggs. Or you don't want to get halfway through a recipe and be like, I don't have milk. So I've taken everything out that we'll be using today. We'll do all of that. It'll be awesome. So let's start off with our berries. Because they're going to take some time to get juicy all up in this bowl here, we want to cut them and put some sugar on them to just draw out the natural juices. In the cooking world, that's known as macerating your berries. I know that sounds crazy. Not what you're thinking. Quit thinking like a broke hoe. Alright, so we're going to macerate. I have some strawberries here. I got some blueberries, and I actually got some raspberries. Now let me tell you, normally, because I'm a cheapskate, that comes from my broke hoe background, I try to buy what's on sale. Strawberries are usually in season like in spring, summertime, so you can get them pretty cheap. Same thing with blueberries and raspberries. But if these were like $4.50 for a package, we're not doing that. So these I got on sale. They weren't that expensive. I'm going to wash them first because I'm in California and produce is nasty. So I'm going to give them a quick rinse before I get them started. I probably could wash them better, but I'm not going to. I don't really like my family that much, so who knows, maybe something good will happen out of this. Now, to cut up strawberries, you really just cut off the top. Some people put a straw through that. I ain't got time for that. So I just cut off the top, and then I just cut them into little slices like this. It really is easy. I don't need a cutting board. If you're not handy with a knife, and I know some of you broke hoes are handy with the knife, but we're just going to pretend. If this was super sharp or you're not good with a knife, I would use a cutting board, but I'm not going to use a cutting board right now because I'm a housewife. Alright, so we're just going to chop these up, slice them up. Again, you don't have to do all of them. It just depends on how many pancakes you're going to make and how many people you're serving. Today, it's just me, my husband, and my son. So I'm not going to do tons of them, especially because my son's a weirdo and he doesn't like berries. And since he doesn't like berries, he doesn't eat them. That's okay. Can't please everybody. Alright, so I'm going to keep going. I'm going to do a couple more of these, and then I'm going to show you the magic. So berries are really nice because they make their own syrup, and to have a good syrup on your pancakes, you know, is key. So we are going to, we got these cut up. Again, I'm going to throw a little bit of blueberries. Let me rinse them really quick if I can open them. If you've never had a fresh blueberry before, you haven't lived. I'm just letting you know right now. Now, being a broke hoe, I never knew that fresh blueberries even existed, truth be told. I used to think blueberries were things that just happened in, like, pancakes and muffins. And so one time I had this girl at work that was eating, like, just blueberries out of the carton like this, and I thought she was the weirdest person I had ever met. And then she made me try one, and they were actually pretty tasty. These raspberries, I'm not even going to wash them. And guess what? Nobody's going to die. So I'm going to just throw a few of them in there. I'm just making sure they're not moldy, because sometimes you get berries and they're kind of moldy. Alright, so look, that's it. You see how simple that was? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some sugar. And yes, I keep my sugar in a big ass container because that's how I live. But I'm really just going to sprinkle a little bit of sugar on it. was probably like a tablespoon. And after I've done that, all I'm going to do is just give it a little stir. Okay, you see how pretty that is already? Oh my God, that is housewife. That is housewife shit if I've ever seen it. Okay, so that's that. I need to put this in the fridge for a little bit. The longer that you let this sit, the more syrupy it's going to get. And again, it's because the sugar kind of breaks down the berries and it macerates them. Okay, so putting some plastic wrap on my bowl. Going to stick this in the fridge. And now I'm ready to start on my pancakes. So we're going to start with just some basic pancake mix, just from the grocery store. I am a cheapskate, like I said, and that's from my Broco background. And so I try to buy stuff as cheap as I can. So my favorite grocery stores, of course, are Costco. I love Costco. Costco sponsor me. I love Costco. But I also love Aldi. Aldi is like super cheap. Food for Less is also good. Just depends on what you have in your area. But I don't shop at usually the big, huge grocery chains because number one, they're too expensive, and that's not how I live. Don't try this at home, kids, with this knife. Okay, so I'm going to open up this pancake mix if I possibly can. I don't even know how to do this because I haven't made from a box pancakes in a really long time. So let's see if this works. All right. These pancake mixes have like a recipe on the back, and so we're just going to go with it. We're going to just make the smallest amount. So we're going to put in pancake mix. I'm going to use a mixing bowl, and there's a difference between measuring cups if you're doing dry or wet ingredients. If you only have one and you're going to use one, that's fine, like nobody's going to die. But if it has a spout and a handle on it, it's probably for liquids. For dry ingredients, it usually are the little cups that you can measure things in. So that's what we're going to use. So for this particular box, it says 1 cup of mix and 3/4 cup of water. Very easy. My dog is telling me, why the hell are you using box pancake mix? We're trying something out here. It's all good. All right. So I got a cup in here, a cup-ish. You don't have to have exact measurements, but I'm pouring a cup in here. I'm also going to turn on my griddle. You don't have to use an electric griddle like this. I just like it for pancakes because it has like a really wide area on it, and it cooks them up pretty easily. The other thing that's good is that these little griddles are super cheap. So if you are a Broco, you can get these like around Thanksgiving time, Black Friday-ish, between like Black Friday and Christmas. I think I paid $8 for this thing, $8. And so if you can't afford an $8 griddle, I can't help you. I don't know what to tell you. All right, so we put our 1 cup of dry ingredients in here, and now we need 3/4 cup of water. I'm gonna get it from my fridge because I live in California. We don't generally use tap water unless you're trying to kill somebody, and I don't want anybody to die today. So let's get me 3/4 cup of water. Okay, so I measured the 3/4 cup of water. I'm going to pour it into my mix. Now here's the key with pancakes is you don't want to overbeat the mix. You want it till it's just combined. Because if you overmix it, then you're going to have flat pancakes, all right? So you want it just till it's mixed because you want the bubbles to start to come out. So let's go ahead and look at this pancake mix real quick. I stirred it for like 4 seconds. As you can tell, it's still a little bit lumpy. And lumpy is fine as long as it's not like super thick. If it's super thick or super thin, you can add extra mix or extra water to get it to the consistency that you want. Now I just turned on my griddle, and I have this one at about 375, but if you were doing this like on a stove, I would use like a nonstick pan. The nonstick pans probably make the best pancakes. And I would do it on like a medium heat. Like the thing that most people do that jacks everything up is they cook stuff at too high of a heat. Like medium, you probably don't need more than medium for anything unless you're going to make a steak or something. But that's not today. We're not doing steak and eggs. We're doing pancakes. All right. So I'm going to use just nonstick cooking spray because this is probably the cheapest thing. When we get to the other stuff, you could also use like butter. I prefer butter, but since we're being a Broco today, we're going to just use the cooking spray. We just want a little bit of the cooking spray on there so it doesn't stick. That's the whole thing. Plus that, pancakes are super yummy when they have like the little crunchy, crispy edge on them. And so what we're trying to do here is give some oil to give it that crunchy, crispy edge. For pancakes, like the best way to do it, the best way that I like to do it is with just a 1/4 cup scoop, because it makes like the perfect size pancake. I'm not a big fan of like the big old Mogambi huge pancakes. I think that's extra. Unless you're trying to be extra, live your best life. But other than that, I think 1/4 of a cup is perfect. So my griddle is hot AF. You can tell because my stuff is getting all brown already. So I'm gonna lay these bad boys down. So I have just one little scoop. Listen, you hear that little sizzle? That's the sizzle you want to hear when you put a pancake down. So you can put like easily 4 or 5 of these on this bad boy, depending on what your expertise level. Remembering that you don't want them too close together because you have to flip them. So I'm gonna do, let's see, 5 on this one. All right. Now, the magic with, I'm gonna get my camera over here. When you know it's right to flip your pancake, it all depends on the bubbles. And so if you look at your pancakes, they start to bubble up like almost right away. But these bubbles are wet. So when they pop and then they close up, they're not ready to flip yet. When your pancakes bubble and then they dry up, like this one is getting ready, this one's getting ready. But when the bubbles pop and then they just stay popped and you can see the little holes in them, that's when you know that it's time to flip. But be patient, because pancakes should only be flipped once. If you're flipping your pancakes like 47 times, you're going to have some dry ass, flat ass, busted ass pancakes. So be patient. Pay attention. If you see that they're bubbling up too fast or they're getting too like smoky or anything like that, you probably have your heat up too high and you want to adjust it and turn it down. Remember, low and slow for these pancakes. All right, so this one right here is starting to get like dry around the edges. If you pay attention, like the top is still shiny, but the edges are getting dry. And you see how that little hole popped and it didn't go back together? It's probably ready. So you just flip it over and oh shoot, look, that's a perfect pancake. If I ever saw one. Once that first one's done, chances are the rest of these bad boys are ready to go. This one's being a little extra. It does take some finesse to learn how to work this spatula, and if you jack it up, like, it's fine. But look how pretty that is. Lovely, lovely, lovely. From a box pancakes. And so that is that. We're going to let that cook for a couple minutes. The first side takes the longest. The second side only takes like a couple of seconds. So after about, I don't know, 20 seconds or so, we'll take them off, and we're just going to put them on a plate. I'm going to cook, there's only a couple left in this, and then we'll move on to, see, that one's not ready. I jacked it up. Look at, even housewives make mistakes. We're going to let that sit for just a couple more minutes, and we'll take them off and we'll cook the rest of these. All right, so go ahead, take a quick break. All right, so we have made box pancakes. Just so you know, if all you make is box pancakes, there's no shame in making box pancakes. If that's what you want to do, because for scratch pancakes, you have to have like flour, sugar, baking powder. If you don't stock up on that stuff normally, that's perfectly okay. Box pancakes are fine. If you want to take box pancakes to the next level, throw in some vanilla, throw in some cinnamon, make it as fancy as you want. You can even like whip up an egg and put it in there. That'll make your pancakes fluffier. It's however you want to live your life. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is pancakes from scratch, and I promise you that if you make pancakes from scratch, you may never go back to box pancakes again. Like, Denny's has nothing on your homemade pancakes. Not only that, but if you want to be the domestic goddess that you were meant to be, then by all means, this is the way to go. So we're gonna make some pancakes from scratch. I'm going to tell you the recipe. We'll put a link up so that you can get the recipe online if that's what you want to do. But we're going to start with flour. The one thing about making baked goods is that you do the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients separately, and then you mix them at the last step. So that way you have like this whole chemical reaction that happens that makes your food super fluffy and yummy and delicious. So we're going to start with our flour. Again, I just keep my flour in a super big jar because that's just how I live my life. I have a cup here. So I'm going to do 2 cups of flour. And again, I'm just putting these in a big bowl. And that's because I'm going to use this bowl to mix everything up at the end. So I have 2 cups of flour. And then I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of just sugar. So I'm going to grab my tablespoon measuring thingy here, and I'm going to put just 2 tablespoons of sugar. And that's just to give it a little sweet taste. Of course, because that's what sugar does. Duh. But the other thing we're going to add is baking powder. And so baking powder and baking soda, I know sometimes people get them confused, but they're not the same thing. So baking soda and baking powder have different purposes. So whatever your recipe calls for, make sure you're using the right thing, because baking powder actually has baking soda in it, but it has another ingredient that gives it another extra special thing. So for our recipe, we're going to use 4 teaspoons. A teaspoon and a tablespoon, by the way, is also not the same thing. So TSP, usually in a recipe, is a teaspoon. It's smaller. A tablespoon, TVSP, is going to be bigger. So just know that for every tablespoon, it has like 2.5 teaspoons or something equivalent. By the way, when you're measuring stuff, this is not a teaspoon and that's not a tablespoon. Like you can get measuring spoons at the Dollar Tree for like 99 cents. So buy some real spoons, measuring spoons. I'm just saying, invest in your housewife status. Okay. So we're going to do 4 teaspoons and baking powder. And what's really nice is that most baking powder has this little leveling thing, because you don't want to have like this big ass thing is not like a tablespoon, or a teaspoon, that's a bunch of stuff. So you want to measure it and just kind of cut the top of it off. If your baking powder doesn't have that, you can just level it off with like a butter knife. It's really easy to do. All right, so we got 4 teaspoons of baking powder. And then the last thing we're going to add is a teaspoon of salt. And so salt is not for flavor necessarily. Salt is necessary for the chemical reaction that creates the bubbles in your pancakes. So if you don't put salt in it, they're not going to be fluffy, because it's a necessary component for the science that happens in pancakes. All right, so a teaspoon of salt. Most of the time for dry ingredients, all you have to do is just whisk them together. If you don't have a whisk, you can just use a fork. But what it does is if you whisk your dry ingredients together before you bake, it makes sure that it's all evenly distributed, because you don't want to have like one pancake with a whole glob of flour and no baking soda, because it's not going to look right. So you just mix it with a whisk, and we're going to set that to the side, because now our dry ingredients are good to go. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our wet ingredients together. And I forgot a bowl. So we're going to just use a small bowl for this, because we're going to do our wet ingredients first in a bowl, and then we're going to mix them with our dry ingredients. So what we're going to have to do, we're going to start with 2 eggs. I have 1 out. I decided at the last minute to double it, so let me get another egg real quick. Alright, so we're going to have 2 eggs, and if you notice, I just cracked my egg on the counter and then just bust it open. I just got an eggshell in here, so all I'm going to do is stick my finger, of my very clean hands by the way, and I'm going to trap it, because you don't want eggshells in your pancakes. I'm just saying, nobody's ever been like, oh man, that crunch in my pancake was so unexpected and delightful. They don't say that, I'm just saying. So we got the little eggshell out, it's gone, it's done, it's over with. So now we're going to add 1.5 cups of milk. So again, we're using a liquid measuring cup. It has little lines on it. So we're going to add, this is a 1 cup, so I'm going to do 1.5. So I'm going to do 1, and then I'm going to do 1/2. And then I'm going to stick this in the fridge, because it's been sitting out for a minute or so. And then I forgot to melt butter. So I'm going to use butter, and you can use, I prefer butter. Let's just be real. Butter is the shit. And I know butter can be expensive. So butter can be expensive, but it's still worth having. So if you don't want to use butter, if you are doing something else in your life, you can use margarine. I don't recommend it. It's nasty. But if that's how you want to live, who am I to judge? But butter is the best thing. You could even use shortening. Like if you live in a state that doesn't have butter, I don't know where you live, you can use shortening. And if you don't know what shortening is, don't use it. It's nasty. Okay, but butter is the thing to do. You can drop the butter. It's a little slippery. It's all good. So this is 1/2 cup. So every stick is 1/2 cup. If I needed less than 1/2 cup, butter is really cute because it gives you like little tablespoons. And this is like on every brand of butter I've ever seen. They have like you can cut it when it's cold and use, it has the measurements, but we're using the whole half a cup. Obviously butter cold or at room temperature is not going to mix well. So what we're going to do is we're going to melt this bitch. We're going to melt it. Butter is a super fat, so it is, it melts quickly. So we're going to put it in the microwave for like 30 seconds. If you put it in there longer than 30 seconds, what's probably going to happen, it's going to start pop locking and dropping, and you're going to have butter all over the place. And so just pay attention. Know your microwave. We're going to whisk this. Now this bowl that I chose is way too small for what I'm doing, so I'm just trying to be careful. I'm also spilling milk all over the counter. But you know what? Housewives, we don't cry over spilled milk. Broke hoes might, because milk is expensive. So I'm just whisking this together. What I'm trying to avoid are like big ass chunks of egg like this. You see that? We don't want that in like one spot, because remember that we want to handle pancake batter as little as possible. So you want to do all of your mixing in advance. So our butter should be soft. And boy, do I know my microwave. It is so delicious. Deliciously melted. And so we're just going to pour that in our wet ingredients, mix it up, and now it's time for us to combine it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. There you go. If you want it to be fancier, and again, our goal is to mix it as little as possible. I'm going to just clean this mess up real quick because I'm making myself crazy. All right. The quicker picker upper. All right. So I have done that. So we are just going to mix as little as possible. And so I usually just start with incorporating some of the dry in with a whisk. And then I get it in like this. All right. And so again, we're doing as little as much. My bingo wings are flapping right now, but that's okay. That's good living. That's good living. Now, at this point, it's not all the way mixed up. If I wanted to, and I do like it, I'm going to throw a little vanilla. This is like my straight, anybody want a dog? Does anybody want a dog? Because I have one that's for free. His name is Dodger. He makes a lot of noise, and he's going to be up for adoption pretty soon. If he doesn't shut up. He knows what adoption means. I'm a good parent. Okay, so anyways, this is Mexican vanilla. I smuggled this in from the homeland all by myself. I had the ice was after me for many years, but the evidence is almost gone. I'm going to go ahead and use, and I'm just going to put a splash in there because that's how I'm living today. All right, so I'm going to mix that vanilla in just ever so slightly. And again, I'm trying, my goal is to handle this as little as possible. Now, if you want to look in here in my bowl real quick, that's good, nice and funky and chunky, just like me. This batter looks very different from our batter that we used for the box mix. As you can tell, this is way thicker. And part of the reason that it's way thicker is because it's got like butter and eggs and all that good stuff in it. So don't be alarmed. Don't think like pancake mix doesn't have to be super runny. It can be thick and toasty just like that. All right. We can do this one of two ways right now. We can use the spray again, which again, we'll do the spray on half of it. By the way, I haven't cleaned the griddle. It's still the same dirty griddle I just used from the other pancakes. The other thing we can do is actually use butter. I like butter on my pancakes because I love buttery pancakes. So I'm just going to take a cold stick of butter and just take a little bit of the wrapper off of it. And as I take a little bit of the wrapper off it, I'm going to just hold the wrapper and I'm going to rub the butter on the thing. Ooh, look at that. Look, what would you rather have your pancakes cooked on? All of this, yum, or that stuff? Live your best life. You decide what you want to do. Again, I'm going to use the 1/4 cup measuring. So I'm going to throw some of these chunky, funky pancakes on here. You could also, if you wanted to, add fruit to this or nuts. If you wanted to do like a banana nut pancake, you could add like one smashed banana and some walnuts or pecans if that's how you want to live. You could add chocolate chips at this point if you wanted to make chocolate chip pancakes. You could even add some of those blueberries that you had left over. So You can add whatever you want, but I only did 4 pancakes on this one because these ones are a little bit more chunky. But the same rule applies. We're going to sit here and let them bubble. If you want to see how they sizzle, you see how these are just like getting all the yum on them, and these ones are just chilling. They're doing their thing. These ones are living, but these ones are living their best life. I'm just saying. So we're going to wait for these to bubble for a few minutes. As you can tell, they don't bubble as fast as the other ones did, and part of that's because they are thicker, which means they're going to be fluffier and more yummy. We had to take a slight break right now to have a good talk with the dog. The dog is borderline. He's a good alarm system. Now these guys are not bubbling, which is fine, but I know because I can smell that they're getting toasty. So I'm just going to flip them. And so, look at, you see how I flipped that all crazy? Look at that. Nobody's going to die. I just separate them. They break up. They're trying to be together. These are going to flip, and then they're going to fluff. Flip and fluff, that's what we call these pancakes. So for these ones now, I'm going to add, to make them lemon pancakes, which make them like super yummy, super light, and super refreshing. So I want to start by washing my lemon. And again, I try to wash everything because it's California and stuff gets nasty. Even if you live in another state, I'm sure you need to wash your stuff anyways. I'm going to use a zester. This is like a little tool. I think I got this at like, I don't remember where I got this, but I've had it for at least 100 years. And so you can just take the outside of fruit and you can just kind of get the outside without getting the white. This is called the zest. So whenever it tells you to like zest something, this is what it means. When you do this, it starts to smell super lemony delicious. It's actually really nice. And so this is where a lot of the lemon flavor is in lemon. Obviously, that's what we're doing. If it had orange flavor in a lemon, we'd be weird. So lemon flavor. So I just zested it. You can do more than that. Some people choose to chop it, but I try to do as little as I possibly can. Now I'm going to cut on my countertop because I didn't pull out a cutting board. And I have a fancy tool to squeeze my lemons because that's how I live. Peasants have to squeeze their own lemons. So I'm just going to squeeze half of this lemon in here. I want to say I got this lemon squeezer at like a Mexican grocery store for like $5, I think. I had another one that I got somewhere else. My kids broke it and hid it from me. I know it was you. I know it was you, Oscar. I know it was you. It's fine. Okay, so these bad boys are burning. I'm going to put them on a plate because I need to cool this griddle down. So I have it up a little bit too high for these. I'm going to turn it down a little bit lower. And since I just added all that lemony yumminess to this, I want to handle it. I want to handle it as little as possible, and so I'm going to actually use a rubber spatula. So with the rubber spatula, I'm just going to kind of fold it in because I don't want to over mix it because then I lose all those beautiful bubbles. Alright, we had to take another short break because the dog was not picking up on the cues that he was getting from me, so he went to doggy timeout right now. Don't worry, PETA, he's safe. I love him more than my life itself. He just was being annoying. Okay, so we have our griddle turned down because those ones were getting a little crunchy around the edges. I prefer the butter, and since we're making our fancy pancakes, we're going to go all the way. We're not going to slum it. So I'm telling you, housewife status, use the butter. I added lemon to the rest of this, and so now I'm going to put my beautiful pancakes down here. My gorgeous pancakes. Now this right here is going to get you wifed up. I'm just saying. Girl, boy, anything in between, you don't know what you want to be or who you are, this will still get you wifed up. Look at that. You see the little flour right there? Don't even trip. Potato chip, that will melt away when you, if it was like a quarter size amount of flour, just know that you ruined everything and you should just stop trying. But if it's just a little bit, it's cool. Alright. I'm going to try to be ambitious and put one more on here. I can handle it. Alright. Now these, if you notice, are not perfect circles, and you know what? Nobody's even going to care. So if you feel like you need perfect pancakes, and you can make it a little bit more runny. I prefer my pancakes fluffier and all crazy looking so that people know they're homemade versus having them runny, perfect circle, and completely flat. But if you wanted to, if you preferred like a more round pancake, you could just add a little bit more milk to this. Just don't overdo it because then they don't rise as much. Okay, so we got our pancakes going. This is pretty much the last step, and we haven't even spent a whole lot of time. We've already made 3 types of pancakes, and it's been literally like 30 minutes. While you're doing this, you could be making coffee, you could be putting bacon to cook, you can be doing all kinds of fun stuff, but again, we're just focusing on the pancakes today. And this is something that you know, may sound simple for some people, but if you've never cooked before, it may be the hardest thing you ever have to do. I just know you have to start somewhere. So there's a lot of benefit to cooking your own food, aside from it being cheaper. It might be more of an investment to like buy ingredients and stock up on ingredients, but in the long run, it's way cheaper than to go eat a pancake breakfast at Denny's or IHOP or your local, I don't know, pancake place. So my griddle here, it's not sizzling, and part of that's because I turned it down too low, but you kind of figure out what as you're going along. I'm going to move these around a little bit. You can tell they are cooking because if they were not cooking, they wouldn't be moving. But I want them to get, I can tell they're still a little gummy because they're not bubbling at all. And so I'm just going to let them chill for a minute. I'm going to sit here and look cute. And just say this. If you a broco, don't be ashamed. It's all good. Everything is fine. You can get your life together. Cooking at home is a really good way to feel put together, to be put together. Like, it's amazing taking like ingredients and then making them food and then having the people that you love and care about eat them and enjoy them. It's like one of the best feelings ever. So start small. Start with pancakes. You can make pancakes for breakfast. If you want to do breakfast for dinner, that's like life. If you haven't had like pancakes at 2 a.m. after clubbing all night, you haven't lived. So here we go. We're going to flip these bad boys. Oh, I almost had a situation. I saved it. Look at that. Look at that. Look at how gorgeous that pancake is. Oh, God, I just love me. I just love me. I'm going to marry myself, except I would be a polygamist because I'm already married. But, all right, those are some badass, beautiful pancakes. And so what we're going to do next is we are going to dress them. We're going to dress them in whatever you want. You can do syrup. You can do butter. You can do, some people put peanut butter on their pancakes. I am not one of those people, but if that's how you want to live, I've seen it done. You can sprinkle some powdered sugar on it if that's what you want to do. But we're going to do some with syrup. We're going to do some with those beautiful berries that we put together earlier. And then we are going to enjoy. So wait for me just a second while I get the stuff together, and we will do a side-by-side comparison of these beautiful pancakes. All right, so here's our final product. So this is our box pancake. There are 4 pancakes stacked here. You could throw a little butter on them. I just love stick butter with the thing on it. I just like to put a little glossy. If you want to put a little extra butter on. If you are a broco, you can just, there is no shame in just generic Aunt Maple's butter syrup. It obviously is not going to taste as good as the real thing, but it will do. So if we wanted to put just a little syrup on this boy, oh my God, it's so delicious. We can do that. We also have maple syrup. Maple syrup, like real maple syrup, is the shiz. If you can afford it, like this thing was, I don't remember how much it was, but I bought it at like TJ Maxx. It was cheaper than like maple syrup, but you can even buy it at Costco. This one is like a little cinnamon maple syrup. You're trying to be super fancy. It takes a little bit longer. It's all right, get there. This is just tree sap. Come on. So we might do a little whatever on that one. Oh, that looks gorgeous. So excited. All right, and then this is our lemon pancake. So these are our 4 box pancakes. These are only 2. Notice the difference in the height of box pancakes versus homemade pancakes. And then these are the lemon fancy ass pancakes, and our berries. So remember, we macerated those berries, and mind you, I've only had this sitting for maybe 35 minutes or so. If you did this overnight, you would have more of that beautiful syrup. So what we want to do is throw some of these berries, get them all in there, and then some of this berry tukey juice. We want some of the berry tukey juice in there too. That's what makes it delicious. And then if you want it to be extra fancy, I'm not going to do it today, you could even put some yummy like whipped cream or something. Look at that, that's a piece of lemon. I'm going to eat that. Yum. So there you have it. Pancakes from a box. Pancakes from scratch. Fancy ass pancakes. Broco to housewife. Alright, so there you have it. So please hit the link below, follow me, subscribe. I have new recipes every other week. We will have some new stuff. Let me know what you want. We will get it for you. Thank you for watching, and you can make a housewife. I can help. I want to end with a glass of wine, but since we're doing breakfast, I'm going to go with my coffee. So just remember, pinkies up, bitches.